When it comes to progressive and conservative, that doesn't make any sense to me either, because whether we want to progress, we want to change something, or we want to conserve something depends on what we're talking about. There are certain things that are working well. We shouldn't be changing them because it's just working very well. So we need to conserve it. And there are certain things that can improve, and we have figured out a better way to do it. So we need to progress and find a new way to do it. So progressive and conservative, you can be progressive and conservative across the board. You have to figure out what the hell we're talking about before we decide we want to have a conservative or progressive view on it. What makes sense to me is liberal and illiberal, right? So if you're from the left and you have classical liberal views, you're with me. If you're from the left and you are woke and we have communist views, again, Samantha, I consider communist and woke stuff to be illiberal. So a lot of the left, who is like, that is in line with classical liberal values, I consider that to be liberal. There are many right leaning people that are in line with classical liberal values. I consider them as our allies. A lot of people from the woke right, like the Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson's of the world, they are illiberal. The fascists, the Nazis, the racists, the misogynist part of the right, they are illiberal. So left liberal, right liberal, they're aligned with us. Left illiberal, right illiberal, they're not aligned with us, right? So liberal and illiberal is the more productive way, I think, to categorize things. All right.
Okay. Next, we have D Dom, followed by Mr. Jeffrey.
Right, good evening. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm just home and everyone is sleeping. So I wanted to say thank you, Armin, for calling Tucker Carlson a fascist. He's a fucking fascist. People have to know this and be more loud about it. The other thing is the point on the informational and the psychological warfare, and the bad guys in our history have invested so much effort in their propaganda that they want to make you feel that you are the minority, although we are not. The people that are not far left or far right, sorry for the usage of the left and right categories. I know this is not what I would want to use, but that's how, that's how we used to it. So just make a point that the people that in the right side of history are, they are more than those who are in the wrong side. But those who are on the wrong side are too vocal, too loud, and it just makes you feel like you are the minority, although you are not. And just a small hint, not a hint, but like I would love more people to think about it that way. Maybe I'm wrong, but you can fix me on that matter. And another thing is, we're told about people who got killed in Iran while the demonstrations, and then the IRGC tries to make people pay for get their loved ones. Like maybe it shouldn't be like send them a message not to cooperate because that's not what their loved ones would want, like something like this.
Yeah, I mean, so many of the families are not cooperating, but a lot of families, it's hard to tell them that because they really, I mean, I'm an atheist, so I can't relate with that, but a lot of people feel like they associate with the body with their loved ones, right? So if they don't get them back, it feels like they have completely lost them. I think a lot of Jews actually relate with that. That's why Jews are really, really insistent on getting the bodies back. A lot of family members are like, "Yeah, fuck you. I'm not gonna pay you. You killed my brother. I'm gonna pay you for killing my brother." But some family members are like, just can't. They just cannot deal with that. They cannot deal with that. They're like, we want our loved one back. I mean, I don't know if I shared the video. Like the father was when he was looking for his son, Seper, like he was calling out for his son. When he was looking for the body of his son, he was saying, Seper, where are you? My son, where are you? So he's associating the body of his son with his son. So it's really hard to say to a father like that, to, oh yeah, just forget the body. go home without the body. So it's more emotional. So it's really hard. Like I don't think we could tell them that. But yeah, I see your point though.
I don't think I could live with myself if when my parents died, I didn't make sure their bodies got buried. I could not live with myself if I didn't make sure their bodies were buried when they die.
They are
Mr.
too
Jeffrey,
big.
then Rayleigh, Jewish Samantha, and Marku. I mentioned in the chat that moving forward, since we only have about 30 minutes left and we need to make sure that Armin goes to eat, I'm not guaranteeing anyone who raises their hand after this. We'll see.
Thank you, BT. And Danny, we weren't criticizing you, okay? We were just adding information. We were not negating what you said. All right. Who was next?
I think she said me. I can
Okay,
go.
go ahead.
So I'm going to touch on a couple of things that were brought up. Maybe it can help, give people a framework and how to better get their head around it. With regards to moral differentiation regarding the application of power, power itself is morally neutral. The moral content resides in how the power is applied towards what ends and with what consequences. So in authoritarian regimes like Putin's criminalized counterintelligence state, the Chinese Communist Party, or the Mullah regime, the application of power causes structural harm. It deliberately suppresses the physiological and safety needs of its people. It uses coercion as a governing principle, not as an emergency measure. I'm going to circle this back to some other things. It criminalizes dissent, belief, association, and identity, regardless of their impact on, say, public safety. It treats populations as an instrument of regime survival and externalizes failure through repression and violence. Conversely, Western power, although not perfect, is constrained and correctable. Lower tiers of Maslow's hierarchy of needs are protected as a default condition. Force is applied episodically, often externally. Power is constrained by law, institutions, and public accountability. And dissent, reform, and correction are permitted and institutionalized. And so when you think about things like that, framework helps to kind of like filter out wheat from chaff when you think about why the left amplifies Mullah regime's propaganda and very much focuses on, easily debunked arguments of moral relevancy. The contemporary Red Green Alliance kind of mirrors in many ways the similar reasons I underwrote the marriage of convenience of the Red Black Alliance that took down the Shah. And while they hate each other, they possessed a superficial marriage of convenience centered around hostility towards the left, right? So, yeah, they don't like each other. That doesn't mean they don't hate us more than they dislike each other. And as far as like the moral equivalency or some of the nonsense that you see pushed by radical leftists that are amplifying the Mullah regime, I'm going to use a historical example again. If you think about like why it is radical leftists, this Armin talked about, like differentiating between, say, people who subscribe to classical liberalism in the United States, that would be a libertarian, and radical left-wing Marxist elements that tragically populated disproportionately increasing amount on the left. If you think about like why it is radical leftists hijacked the civil rights movement from the mid and late 1960s during the Soviet era of the Cold War, the civil rights movement in and of itself very much noble and needed. The warped, transformed, and weaponized versions of them are not. And it comes at the cost of actually helping the very people the left claims to care about, which they don't, right? For instance, if you think about comparing the economic issue of oil, right? Well, everybody's got interest in Iran, and so that means there's no moral differentiation between Western interests and Chinese Communist Party and mullahs and Putin's criminalized counterintelligence. Yeah, nothing could be further from the truth. There is a huge difference. If you're using like a maximum consequentialist approach to determining who does the most good and using Maslow's hierarchy of needs as your indexes to measure how you do the most good, economic interdependence, as is defined as free trade between Iran and the West, that is envisioned via His Highness Reza Pahlavi's Iran Prosperity Project, is far night and day better than the lack of benefits that Iranians get under the pseudo-theological cronyist system that currently exists and is defined by the relationship between the mullahs and the chaikhams. There's no connection. It's the same when you think about like propaganda against the Shah, right, during the Soviet era of the Cold War. There is no similarity whatsoever in the unbelievable quality of life that Iranians generally experienced under His Highness Prince Reza Pahlavi's father's time as the Shah and the horrific nonsense that came after it, by any measure you care to name. I mean, I can go on. I want to give other people some time to talk. I just figure I'd like help tighten the shock group maybe on some of those things.
Thank you. That was on point.
Thank you. Okay, next is Rayleigh and then Samantha.
Yes, I personally I'm in the field of cybersecurity, and I've been hyper focused on recently on this. The last week we had an outage with Verizon, and it knocked out a significant number of people, including myself, in our phone coverage. And then I think it was yesterday that Microsoft's Office suite had an outage, and I haven't been monitoring the hacker forums yet, but I need to go on there. I have been working and I've been preparing. I live in Austin, so I've been preparing for a storm that's supposed to be hitting us soon. So I haven't had a chance to go on there, but I'm wondering if, these outages are related to some sort of attack from Iran, or maybe it's proxies in North Korea or China or Russia, if there's any connection between the two.
US is having snowstorms. I don't think there's any connection.
The timing just seems very strange to me.
The US has snowstorms, there's blackouts all the time. This is not a bizarre thing. It's winter.
Not the winter storm, the Verizon outage that happened not last Wednesday, but the Wednesday before, and then the Microsoft outage.
Things glitch.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know the answer for sure, but that's actually not a left field scenario. There have been historical data attacks. I think North Korea brought down the Sony PlayStation Network as a protest to the film with the mock assassination. So rogue states do use hack attacks like this to send messages to their enemies. So it wouldn't be unheard of.
It may not be directly from Iran, it could be from one of their proxy states. But I don't know. It may sound far fetched. I don't know.
As a general rule, weak states use asymmetrical warfare. When they can't match their opponents in terms of military strength or diplomatic strength, they can resort to things like this, maybe to achieve some political end.
Oh, well, that's all I had to ask. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Samantha, you're next.
The people of Iran are fucking brave, man. Like, they're really fucking brave. And I feel so fucking shitty that, like, they're so fucking brave. Half the time, I'm scared to even fucking talk. I'm like,
I
Well,
take a chance
Samantha,
to apologize that up to
yeah.
like 2 weeks ago, I thought, or up to December 28th, I thought that Iranian people were too scared to do what needs to be done. And I was very, very wrong.
Well, let me respond to both of those. First of all, Samantha, I mean, I personally will never forget you standing by our side. Okay, so you represent a lot of people that I really, really admire, and thank you for everything you say and everything you do in supporting us. To Danny's point, Danny, thank you so much for changing your mind on that, because when the Iranian people were not coming out into the streets, we were having a lot of difficulty trying to explain to people that it is going to happen. And I don't know if you heard me saying that we know it's going to happen. The Iranian people were just waiting for the right time. And I think they chose the time wisely. I mean, they have a record of showing up when they're needed, and they have sacrificed so much before. They sacrificed so much in the Bloody November. A lot of people don't know about Bloody November. That was a mass slaughter as well, but the Islamic Republic did a really good job hiding that in a way that the world is not talking about it, that the world, forgot about it. So at least we predicted that this will happen, because we knew that the Iranian people are not going to be tolerating this much oppression, and we know that the price would be high. and we know that the Iranian people would be willing to pay it. And it happened. That's why they call Iran the land of Sarzamin del Iran, which means the land of the brave. A lot of people think that, okay, they went back and they're not going to come out based on the experience that they had. It's over. Just like we said before, they are going to come out in numbers that you're not going to believe, and it happened. So this time, like, I hope people believe me that no, the revolution is not over and the Iranian people are not done.
I believe you, but most Americans don't.
Yeah. So no, the revolution is not over, and it doesn't take a lot more than, even though this slaughter that we just saw is the darkest part of Iran's history, it's not going to be enough to keep Iranian people in their home. In fact, if anything, it has reduced the doubt among the remaining. So if there were any other people in Iran that didn't want to fight the Islamic Republic, now they actually came on the side of joining the fight as well. So I think it will backfire, and I think they will show up even stronger than before.
It
This is not going to
convinced
stop.
me that the CCP is evil.
Yeah. Do you want to explain why to people who might not do the connection?
Just literally seeing them helping the Islamic Republic is like my I anyone helping the Islamic Republic is evil. That is why.
The CCP did this to their own people in Tiananmen Square.
Yes.
It was a slaughter.
Yep.
Tens of
shit.
thousands.
Wait, really?
They
Yeah.
brought tanks. Like they actually shot with tanks ammunition into crowds.
Yeah, that's why they see a strong correlation. Once the revolution started happening, sorry to jump in here, a lot of Chinese were looking at this as a situation that they may have an advantage of trying to do the same thing, and it kind of scares the CCP because there is a lot of similarities that they're starting to notice. So it's very interesting.
I feel really fucking horrible about helping spread CCP propaganda in the US.
Oh,
You
it's
should
okay.
be proud, Samantha. You should be proud to be somebody who can like undo the brainwashing and reevaluate your views. You shouldn't feel horrible at all. You should be like, that's rare. Evolving, reevaluating, reconsidering. That's like, it's so rare among people. So rare. You should be so proud. You're like one of the very few people who gets to do that.
And like the whole fucking time, I always was very patriotic Israeli. And that's the irony. Like, honestly, it's weird to say, but like looking back, there is no fucking way if like I hadn't like, been to Israel and like, stayed in Israel and been like so pro Israel, there's no fucking way that I would right now still be in a communist cult and like be spreading like CCP propaganda.
I'd like
Yeah.
to chime in for a second, if I may. Samantha, she is such a sweetheart, always apologizing and just feeling so down about it. But, in our family, we tend to look at things that we've gone through. And though I get what you mean about feeling some shame, I hear you, although I don't agree that you should feel that way. But one thing that we like to do with things like that is kind of flip it and look at it as from the inside, exactly how they get to others. You have something so amazing. Look at your time there as undercover girl. Don't be worried about
Believe me,
that
there are
you
things I want to say that I need to work on my PTSD more to like say them, but like there are things I have to say.
I believe in you. If there's anything that any of us could ever do to help that in any way, let us know. Think about that time as you were just undercover and you know who their victims are, right? You know who is susceptible to something like that based on the way that they got you. And yeah, you might have spent some time on that other side, but imagine all of the other great things that you could take that and do with it and save so many other people. So don't let it get you down. Definitely just something to fuel you forward. And we're all very, very happy that you're here.
And I wanted to also add, Samantha, like I used to be on the same side, in regards to those kinds of views. And it says a lot about you to be able to be intellectually honest about the information that you encounter, right? If you're not willing to challenge your views and test it with evidence, you actually just have dogmas, right? You have to always be challenging your views, testing it with the facts, with the evidence, and changing your mind just shows that you're intellectually honest, that you're flexible as well, that you're willing to reevaluate yourself and to not consider yourself infallible, and that you can make mistakes and it's fine. We can't be like right about everything, so it's okay to change our minds about things, and to also it gives you an advantage because you can understand their logic way more now, so you can understand their arguments, why they argue that way, why they reason that way, so you can better counter that if you don't agree with it. But yeah.
I mean, I used to
You
be
reckon?
Antifa, and look at me now.
Oh yeah, hey, Susie's here. Oh, actually, you're right, Samantha. You and Susie are very much like each other because like she used to be deep inside Antifa.
Like, no, watching Susanna, watching your live streams, because it's like I watched live streams for a while before I started participating in, like, the chat. That really fucking helped me when I was like, just got out of a communist cult and was like dealing with that shit. Like,
I'm
you have
so
way
happy
more
to
like
hear that.
social reach than you know.
Like, you're not alone. One book that completely transformed my life that I think would help you a lot is called How to Combat Cult Mind Control by Stephen Hassan.
Okay.
He's a cult survivor turned deprogrammer. And I think you should read that book because it would probably give you a lot of language to understand your experience. Because it made me go like, oh, that's what that was. There's a name for that. I wasn't crazy. I think that would be really helpful to you because you're not alone.
You know what's crazy?
Oh,
Like when Armin said how like the MEK would like punish people for like missing their family, I can fucking relate because like it took me months to be able to like even just tell my parents I miss them without feeling like I'm being manipulative.
oh, this is so wholesome. Thank you for sharing all of that. Samantha, a lot. You know who else relates with everything you're talking about? Ex-Muslims. Ex-Muslims also relate with like you're basically how also ex-Muslims are very valuable to expose like the teachings of Islam. Basically, that's how you're also an asset now for us. The same when an ex-Muslim is.
There is a group in Facebook on ex-Muslims.
Oh yeah, there's tons.
No, like a main one, a big community. Like they have the red house, right?
Yeah,
I don't know how to say it. Like
the crescent.
symbol, yeah, the symbol of the Islam, like in red and like forbidden.
Yeah. Big. Okay. All right. So Samantha, so let's move on to the next person. But Samantha, I'm really looking forward to one day you sharing more with us whenever you're comfortable with all your experience and the things that you went through. So, all right. So
Oh,
BT.
okay. Marku is next, and then Uncle, you're after.
Well, thank you again for the audience. And I've been hearing a lot of ex-leftists. Congrats to you. I have my total heart for you guys. I mean, being brainwashed, that's something. And overcoming it, that is, I don't know how people do that. But coming to some of the like political stuff on Armin's views, and I just wanted to touch point on Jeffrey's some of the stuff that because I'm from Europe, so we have a thing like where you're economically capitalist, but you're socialist. Like you have socialist views on certain things, but in America you seem to have packages. Everything is you're on the left or you're on the right. When in Europe, and I don't know how it's in Armin in Canada, but like I'm more like totally like more on the capitalist side on the economics, but probably on the centrists and even probably more on the leftist side on how do we take care of like the weak and some people that don't really deserve that, like because of their birth. So I just wanted to address that. I don't know how that is, but here, like, we're kind of communist. I have to say that, even though we're portrayed as like the Nordic countries, like we we have a very very like generous outcome for anybody who comes in here, and
Well,
high taxes.
not literally communist, because you still have free markets, you have a stock market, you have private property, you have trade, so you have, like, it's not like literally communism, but you have too much government involvement, right?
Yeah, that's kind of like where I come, like fascist, communist. It's kind of the same thing where the government pretty much tells you that what the playbook is, and then the entrepreneur just needs to play that playbook and get the benefits out of it. I was just wondering about, like, Armin, do you know if like any of the like inside Iran, are they getting help from like CIA or Mossad to arm themselves like the regular people? Because that's kind of like I don't know if that's going to help, but I would think it's going to help a lot if they're going to like
So,
face IRGC. Like, I've seen the footage and it's horrific.
so there's a lot of Mossad agents inside Iran, but they are Iranian. So
Mhm.
right now there are more Iranian Mossad agents than Israeli Mossad agents, given how many agents Mossad has inside Iran. When people think Mossad agents in Iran, these are not like Israeli Hebrew like speaking people that just went from Israel into Iran. These are Iranians who have applied to Mossad to work for Mossad from inside Iran, right? So they get trained by Mossad, they get their equipments from Mossad, and they have carried out a lot of successful operations inside Iran under the direction of Mossad. When you're talking about arms, you're talking about like weapons getting to the hands of Iranian people on a much higher number. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, kind of like, but I'm just talking like how they can defend themselves with, you know, I mean,
So,
if you have the masses, you can still defend even with like even higher numbers of like even
so,
like
so
that
to
stuff that you
to
have on.
to arm the Iranian people at a higher number, it's way more challenging. Like, how are you going to get the weapons inside Iran and bypass the IRGC and into the hands of Iranian people? Like, if you are like, are you going to like drop it inside Iran, like with balloons? Like, are you going to bring it across the border? Like, how are you going to do that? And without it being detected, and you're potentially just giving more weapons to IRGC. You know what I mean? If you
Yeah,
don't do it
that, that,
properly.
that,
Yeah.
that's a good point. But like, if you think about it, like Iran is a big country. The borders are quite large from all
Yeah,
sides.
but any amount of weaponry that would make a difference is easily detectable with
Okay.
radars and imagery and stuff like that, right?
I'm just talking about more like ARs and stuff like that, so that they could defend themselves if the need be.
I
I'm
mean,
talking.
ARs. So for that to be a difference maker in response to tanks and helicopters and armored vehicles, and it needs to be at a such high volume that would be detected. I think it would be easy. I mean, I'm not an expert at this. If this was the answer, it would have been done by now. If
Okay,
this was the
yeah,
answer.
you're probably right.
Yeah.
I'm just questioning because like you have the Kurds on the northeast side,
No.
which are armed.
Okay, the Kurds, first of all, you're talking about the separatists, which we do not want armed. In fact, if anything, we have to disarm those people. They are separatists. They're not nationalists. They want to divide Iran, so we're against them. But I think Jeffrey might have some good points regarding this. So, Jeffrey, can you respond to this?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was actually looked at in some of the things I sent up the chain. I actually CC'd you, Goldie, Tusi, a couple other people that I'm not going to name, regarding the idea of providing lethal track 2 material support to the brave Iranian protesters, which there is utility to doing so, not the least of which is, and I understand the underlying emotion, where you're seeing kids getting gunned down by the Mullah regime's version of a technical, which is like a Toyota with a heavy machine gun, right? I mean, that's really horrible. So the issue, Armin touched on it, like he hit almost every one of them. If you're going to do a mass airdrop, how do you do so in a manner that allows your cargo aircraft to circumvent the Mullah regime's air defense, which has been bolstered almost assuredly by the Chi-Coms in the past 3 days, which is why we're moving more resources in the region without getting into too much detail. If you're going to do a land approach, like you were kind of referencing, say like the Viet Cong did during the Vietnam War, you're doing the good guy version of that across like, the Laotian border, Ho Chi Minh Trail, or what tragically terrorists are doing right now in Israel. How do you do that in a manner where it's not detected by the IRGC and the besieged brigades? Because the amount of material support you're looking to give them is pretty high. I mean, that's like a lot of stuff. And again, even if you do deliver it there, how do you ensure that the bad guys don't get a hold of it? Right. And if you do, let's say we start leveraging things like, what like Ukrainians have done to Putin's criminalized counterintelligence state to leverage the playing field, right? Because the Mullah regime has tanks and artillery and all this other stuff. So then the Mullah regime goes, look, see, these guys are terrorists. Now we're going to sit there and like, what is it? Crap, not we, forgive me, Hashem. I'm not the evil fuckers. I'm saying like the Mullah regime's now going to use it as justification to come down even harder on the protesters, right? And use that tactical victory and or pushback as leverage in a strategic soft power game. So, I mean, I'm not saying that those decisions aren't very much valid and there aren't ways to do that. I'm just saying those are things that people have to look at, and Ahmed very insightfully touched upon. I was going to talk about some other things, although I don't want to take other people's times because I know Armin has to deep. I'll mention them the next time around. Good thing to know, Mark.
I was just wondering, in general speak, because it just, I just don't like people getting slaughtered in general.
It's fucking heartbreaking.